Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are all doing well. If it is your first time here, my name is Hanan and welcome to the channel. I'm just so elated and so excited for this video because it is my absolute favorite topic. We're going to be talking about Ramadan and how you can actually prep for Ramadan starting today. Literally, as soon as you end this video, you are going to use some of these tips or all of these tips to make sure that you're able to implement it in your life now so that when Ramadan comes, you're able to capitalize and use that month to the best of your abilities, inshallah. So this is for the girlies who really want to make sure that they leave Ramadan feeling like their best selves and who really want to cultivate a very deep and beautiful relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but actually don't know where to start. So if that's you, then I feel that this video is going to be for you, inshallah. But make sure that you have some tea, some coffee, whatever it is that makes you feel comfortable. Anyways, let's cut this intro short and start straight into this video. Now, first things first, the most important thing that's going to set the foundation of what your Ramadan is actually going to look like is setting your intentions. What are your intentions and what is it that you want to get out of Ramadan? This is something that is really important because it's going to set the tone for what your Ramadan is actually going to look like. Niyyah or intention refers to the motivation or drives that's going to play a part in what our actions look like. So let me give you a personal example. One of my intentions for Ramadan is I really want to have a deeper understanding of the Quran and not just passively read it. I was reading it because I wanted to finish the entire Quran during Ramadan, but I wasn't actually reading it to understand it. So my intentions going into this month of Ramadan, inshallah, is to try to actually understand what it is that I'm reading. And that means actually slowing the pace of reading the Quran. So I'm not going to create an aim to actually finish the entire Quran this Ramadan. Rather, I'm going to really focus on a few surahs and focus on tafsir. Things that I'm doing to really help with that is already starting and prepping early on with one lesson per week where I'm doing tafsir courses online so that when Ramadan starts around, I've already built up that habit and it's easier to go along. Once you recognize what your intentions are, keep that very close to your heart and use that as a reminder every single time you feel a certain type of way. You're feeling really low. You're finding fasting really difficult. And use that as a way to really go back and remind yourself of why you're fasting in the first place. What are some goals that you really want to focus on this Ramadan? Maybe an intention for you could be something like, you know what, my intentions for this Ramadan is to ensure that I actually pray all of my prayers on time. What you can do now is really get into the habit of trying to prioritize your prayers. And we're going to get into that a little bit later on, inshallah. And so in order for it to be easier for you during Ramadan, you have to set and start that habit right now. Really don't sleep on reflecting on what your past Ramadans have looked like, because I promise you it will help you with cultivating and creating goals that actually make sense for you and that are doable. It allows us to really reflect on our bad behavior, to really identify what were the areas that we really want to improve on. And by doing that, we're able to make the appropriate adjustments that we need to make during this Ramadan. Also, will give you something to actually look forward to because you know that, hey, you know what? This was something that I really struggled with, but I was able to attain it and work through it during this Ramadan. So this one I'm just going to add in, and that's learning the 99 names of Allah and actually understanding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes. One thing I realized is that a lot of us, when we make dua, we'll make it quite passively. It's like, Ya Allah, forgive me. Ya Allah, you're Ghafur Rahim. Ya Allah, give me this, give me that. And we don't actually internalize what His names mean. I highly recommend you guys, even if it's just 2 or 3 names before the month of Ramadan, really try to understand who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. And I promise you guys, it's going to actually change how your du'as are being made. It's going to change how connected you feel to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because you know who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. You understand His traits and who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that He is. And so when you understand His names, it's not only going to change how you make dua, but it's also going to change and cultivate such a deep, beautiful relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It really will help you with that connection. If this is something that you're lacking, you find it really difficult to connect with Allah, you find it really difficult to connect when you're praying salah, I would highly, highly recommend learning His 99 names. When I tell you guys, I don't want to get emotional, but this really makes me think of when I was growing up and learning the Quran and I went to a Quran class or I went to Duksi, when I was taught about who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, it was from a fear-based perspective. They would always say that, if you do this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to punish you. If you do this, Allah is very severe in His punishment. Of course you should fear Allah. I'm not taking that away or negating that. However, it really made it hard for me to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I saw God from a very negative light. As soon as I understood who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, it completely changed my relationship with Allah, and I no longer saw it from just a fear-based perspective, but rather had a lot more of a deeper love for Him. And it made my love for Him a lot deeper because I was able to see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so loving. His mercy is so great. And it just made me feel so bad that the way that I learned about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I feel like that's a valid experience for a lot of people who have been raised to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, a very tough God, a very angry God. I feel like a lot of the times that's done to, kind of keep us on the straight path. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about His mercy more than He does His wrath, especially in the Quran. How many times does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention that He's Ghafurur Rahim? How many times does He mention His mercy, His forgiveness? It's going to change your perspective and it's going to change your relationship with Him. So highly recommend trying that out before Ramadan. From now, you can learn 1 or 2 names and then gradually build up on. And during Ramadan, it's going to change how you guys make your du'as. I promise. Thing that I really think you guys should try. And I did this last Ramadan and absolutely loved it. And this really helped me with having a guide of what I wanted my Ramadan to look like. And that's creating a Ramadan vision board. I'm the type of person that likes creating vision boards for pretty much anything. Like when I go on vacation, I create vision boards. When I'm planning out what I want my year to look like, I create vision boards. So I actually created a Ramadan vision board for this year. And this is what it actually looks like. I love this because it allows me to actually visually see what my structured goals looks like. And it also motivates me. So I'll have it as my phone screensaver and also as my desktop screensaver just for the month of Ramadan. So every time I look at it, it reminds me of what I want to get out of this month. This one is very much self-explanatory, but you need to make up your fast. Okay, I know there are so many of us who like to wait last minute, including myself, but please, for the love of God, make up your fast as soon as possible. Don't wait until the last stretch. Make it up now. Collectively, let's do better and try to make up our fast as soon as Ramadan is actually done because our bodies are already used to fasting. So make up your fast, okay? That's very, very important because the struggle is real, and I don't know why we're doing this to ourselves. I don't know why we kill ourselves when we know that we could have been making up our fast a lot earlier, but we just wait for winter because we feel like it's a cheat code, which technically it is, but make up your fast, okay? I'm talking to you. Focusing on prioritizing your prayers, working your day around your prayers and not the other way around. This is a game changer. When you structure your day around salah, it becomes so much more manageable. It's all about your mindset and how you frame and look at the importance of salah. As we know, obviously, as Muslims, prayer is a priority and it's what keeps you in the fold of Islam. It's what makes you a Muslim, and it's very, very, very critical. I think that there are definitely a lot of people who struggle with prayers, point blank period. They struggle with either praying in general or praying on time or praying all 5 prayers. You need to look at prayer as just as important as the health of your body, for example. Like, this is for the health of your soul. And when you really, really have to use the bathroom, you're not gonna wait hours and hours before you have to go pee. You're not going to hold it because it's going to feel really uncomfortable and it's going to eventually affect your health. You can have an infection. It can really affect your body. And so what ends up happening is you go to the bathroom and you do what you need to do. Why do we not prioritize salah in the exact same way? And then we wonder why our hearts don't feel at ease. We wonder why we feel so much pain. We wonder why we feel like there's no structure in our day. We wonder why we don't feel connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's because you're not viewing salah in that light. You need to work on prioritizing your prayers and looking at it as just as important as eating to keep you alive. Your prayers are going to keep your soul alive. One thing I always like to say is I always view prayer as a way of connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But even on the days where I feel so low, trust me, you guys, you're not the only one. There are days where salah feels so hard. Oh my God, I don't want to cry. But there are some days where salah can feel really hard because I'm not having the best day. And so the idea of actually getting out of bed and dragging myself to pray can feel really, really tough. But I always tell myself that even if I'm not feeling the motions, even if I'm not feeling the connection, I did the act. I tried and I did it and I showed up and I prayed. And so you kind of need to think about it in the same way. It's a necessity. And I promise you, the more you do it, the more you make it a routine, the more you practice keeping up with your salah, your heart will naturally open. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make your love for salah a lot easier for you and more smoother. One thing I absolutely love doing is creating a space in my home where prayer. I know that it's my area of worship where I'm going to be praying and really connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you have the space to do it, it doesn't have to be anything extravagant, but try to create a little prayer space or a corner space where you're reading Quran and you're praying. And I promise you, it's really going to lift your mood. I love taking like bukhur or perfume and putting it on my prayer mat to try my best to look my best when I'm praying salah, because I'm meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we put in so much effort to look good when we're outside, why do we not put in the same effort to look good in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So I'm literally facing the Lord. Like, this is the Lord that's going to give me everything that I ask for. I need to make sure I show up and show out. Like, I need to look good. Okay. So I love doing that during the month of Ramadan. It doesn't necessarily, I'm not telling you to beat your face. I'm not telling you to do any of that, but really making sure that you smell good, you know, that you feel your best and that you have a very clean space so that when you're praying, you will truly feel connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a game changer, okay? I'm not talking about waking up for Fajr and grabbing the nearest duvet that's near you and covering yourself up to pray. No. When you get into the habit of prepping and creating a very good prayer routine, it will be so easy for you during the month of Ramadan because you've already established that. So you can also use the people around you to help hold you accountable. So for example, you know, telling your family members to wake you up for Fajr. In addition to this is also a really good time to practice doing extra prayers, so sunnah prayers, because y'all, during the month of Ramadan, we're trying to stack up on the good deeds. Okay, the more you do this, the easier it will become, and it will literally become second nature to you. Another thing I really want you guys to try to do before Ramadan starts is get into the habit of trying out tahajjud prayers. When I tell you guys tahajjud is life-changing, I'm not exaggerating. Every single dua that I have made praying tahajjud has quite literally been answered. Like, I'm not exaggerating. All of the du'as that I've made during tahajjud have been answered. So this is something I really think you should try, because imagine what tahajjud prayer is like during Ramadan. Can you imagine? I have no doubt in my mind that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer your du'as. You don't necessarily have to pray during the last third of the night. You can also pray a little bit after Isha and pray before you go to bed, and you just got your tahajjud prayer out of the way. It doesn't necessarily just have to be during the last third of the night. However, I will say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually descends to the nearest heavens during the last third of the night, and He says, who is calling upon me so that I may answer him? Who is asking for me so I may give him? Who is seeking forgiveness for me so I may forgive him? Now imagine what tahajjud is like during the month of Ramadan. I cannot even fathom the types of du'as that you can make and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so rich and He's ready to answer your du'as. So don't fumble, and try your best to get into the habit of at least trying out tahajjud prayers, even if it's just once a week, so that when Ramadan rolls around, it will be a lot easier for you to get into the habit of doing more night prayers. There are a lot of us who work and go to school and have very tight schedules during the day that can make it very difficult to have the right energy to pray your night prayers. Be very realistic about how much you can do. Also, don't beat yourself up for it. Next step is really critical, and I think it's honestly one of the most important steps, and that's really working on creating a deep relationship with the Quran before Ramadan starts. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that this can happen overnight, especially if you're not a person that reads the Quran often. However, I will say that if you at the very least try to read it once a week or even 5 verses a night, if you try to build up smaller habits, when Ramadan comes around, it'll be so much more easier for you to build on and increase how much you're reading. I know that there are a lot of us who don't actually engage with the Quran before Ramadan much or often, and so if you are that person and you know that it might be difficult for you to pick up on the habit, I would highly recommend trying out reading 1 or 2 verses every single night. Start small and then slowly and gradually build up on how much you're reading. These are different tips that you can take on with you when it comes to reading the Quran to make it a lot more manageable and easy for you. And aim to create a reading goal for yourself. So for example, based on your schedules and your day-to-day life, if you have a very busy schedule throughout the day, you might set, you know what, my reading goal is to read 5 pages during my lunch break, or 10 pages during my lunch break, or 5 pages after every prayer. Set a realistic reading goal for yourself to really understand the Quran, understand the verses, when they were revealed, the historical context, and you're actually able to understand what the surah is talking about. You're able to have more khushu' and basically more focus in your salah. So incredible, because you have quite literally the answers to everything: morals, ethics, law. Like literally every single question that you have will be answered in the Quran. So ponder on those verses and try to see how they can apply to your real life. Don't rush the process. quality is more important than quantity, in my opinion. I would rather take my time reading the Quran and actually understand what I'm reading and implement it in my real life than rush the process of reading the entire Quran and not knowing anything that I've read and not being able to apply it to my life. Does that make sense? So take over quality over quantity. Of course, if you still have the aim of reading the entire Quran, definitely do that. I'm not saying not to. I feel like also with halaqas, I love doing halaqas and creating halaqas with my friends because it makes the process a lot more enjoyable. And you would be so surprised to hear how other people reflect and ponder on verses. There's nothing better than being in a group setting where you're talking about Allah. And with that, I'm going to segue into why you should really try Quran journaling. Now, I love this now. This is something that I've just implemented in the last few months. I really, really love this. You can make it really creative and really fun. And it's also going to act as something that you can look back on in the future when you want to remember a certain surah or you want to look at your notes. When I'm learning about certain surahs, I'll make it really fun and create different illustrations, reflect on how that surah may apply to my own personal life, challenges that I might be facing and things like that. So highly would recommend Quran journaling if you've never tried it before. It really deepens your connection with the Quran. It's a whole different level. How you're going to do it is first pick out a verse or a surah from the Quran. You can always start by picking out your favorite surah, or you can go in order, completely up to you. After you choose a verse, you're going to read it and read it with a lot of attention and focus. You might want to read the tafsir, which is basically the commentary, and that's going to describe to you, the historical context of the verse and also the meaning of the verse and why that verse was sent down. Really reflect on the verses and its relevance to your life. How does it speak to, your personal experiences, your challenges? How does it speak to all of the, the triumphs, everything that you've been faced with? How does this verse speak to you and how does this surah speak to you and relate to your life? Really reflect and ponder on that. And when you're connecting it to your life, also reflect and think about, what lessons can I actually draw from this surah? What are some lessons that I can take from the surah? Here is where you're actually going to write down all of your thoughts, your feelings, how you feel about the surah. You can create drawings if you guys would like. You can also do it digitally. There are so many ways that you can make it creative. And also think about if you're doing this during Ramadan, it's not only a really great activity that's going to make you engage with the Quran, but it's also such a beautiful way to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you're going to get ajr. Now, this is something that I'm doing this Ramadan. I've never done it before, but I think it's actually going to be really fun because it's going to help me keep track of my goals, and that's doing a 30-day Ramadan challenge. Now, how this basically works is you're going to sit down and write a goal or a challenge that you're going to put for yourself every single day of Ramadan. Actually, what you're doing is setting little daily goals that align with your bigger goal. You can do this by having a calendar or putting it on your phone, but the idea is to track down all of the goals that you've actually completed every single day. Here's an example of what a 30-day Ramadan challenge can look like. Of course, you can tweak this and make it more personal to you, but the great thing about this is that with a 30-day Ramadan challenge, it's going to act as a powerful tool to really enhance your Ramadan experience. It's going to foster discipline and consistency. There is no better feeling than checking something off when you've completed it. So imagine during Ramadan having these goals set out for yourself and actually completing it each day. It's going to aid you in really enhancing your personal development during the month of Ramadan, because I know a lot of us really focus on worship, but there's also other aspects of worship that we don't normally talk about, such as nutrition, exercise, which we'll go into a little bit later. You'll be able to cultivate very beneficial habits that will help you beyond Ramadan as well, inshallah. I'm actually going to be vlogging my 30-day Ramadan challenge, inshallah, so I will let you guys know how it's going for me, but highly recommend trying it out, inshallah. And get into the habit of building your routine of, engaging in daily exercise. I'm not necessarily saying that you need to be lifting weights and going to the gym. I know for me personally, y'all, I am a low impact girly. I don't like doing too much. Like, I love going on walks. I love doing yoga. I love doing stretches. I love, doing mindful movement. And that really, really works for me. So try to find something that works for you. It can literally be 45 minutes of movement. It doesn't have to be anything intense if that's not what you're into. When you do exercise then during the month of Ramadan, inshallah, it's going to help you with aiding your digestion, help you with breaking down the food in your body. It's going to impact your mood and help with boosting your energy levels, which in turn is going to help you stay a lot more positive and have better mood during the month of Ramadan. Like, as y'all know, when we get hungry, we get hangry, okay? We get really, really hungry, and then it just affects our mood. And obviously, it's going to also help with, burning all of that iftar food that you're eating. So just make sure to try to incorporate regular exercise. When you're doing night worship, you're going to be standing for a long period of time praying salah. It's going to really help with maintaining your energy levels as well. Sorry, guys, it's getting a little bit hot right now. The sun is out, so let me actually take off my abaya. Please forgive me, you guys. There's been so many technical difficulties and I just had to switch over my camera. So bear with me if you guys notice a change in quality. There's a change in the lighting at any point. The sun is starting to set, so the lighting might change a little bit. So if it does, please do forgive me. But anyways, carrying on. Next point is self-explanatory, but I feel like this is something that a lot of us definitely struggle with. And that is making sure that you are eating nutritious meals. During the month of Ramadan, you guys, what you eat is going to reflect how your day is going to look like. I'm talking to you, girl. Yo, I'm also talking to myself. I'm gonna be so real because when it's time to break fast, my taste buds are literally craving the sambusas, the spicy food, the things that I've been craving and dreaming about. Oh, we're all guilty of this, okay? Watching mukbangs during Ramadan, scrolling through TikTok videos of food. We're just thinking about breaking our fast and eating. What you eat is going to reflect your ability to worship later on in the evening or at night. If you are not filling your body with the nutrients that it needs when you pray in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're going to feel weak, you're going to feel tired, you're going to feel drained, you're going to feel exhausted. And meal planning from right now, you're spending hours in the kitchen trying to figure out what you need to cook and spending hours in the kitchen trying to prep and meal prep and then spending hours in the kitchen afterwards cleaning. No, what you need to do is really try your best to prep as much as you can. Now, during Ramadan, we really focus on the hosting and bringing the community together. There's nothing wrong with that, but that comes with a lot of stress. That comes with a lot of planning. That comes with a lot of, creating platters and platters of food that really takes away from the time that you should be taking to be in a state of worship. So really think about how you want to spend your Ramadan. Really think about the things that you want to prioritize and be smart about what you decide to put into your body. So do your research, you guys. What you eat is going to reflect how you worship. Another aspect of this is also working on sleeping early, building a really healthy routine, because how you sleep is going to affect your ability to worship as well. Now, obviously, during the month of Ramadan, sleep can look very chaotic and it's going to look all over the place because we spend majority of our night worshiping, whether it's taking short naps throughout the day or sleeping earlier so that you can wake up for tahajjud. I highly recommend working on your sleep schedule now so that at the very least you can practice praying tahajjud and waking up and praying on time for fajr. Next, you're going to work on creating your dua list. This is so important, you guys, because we do not want to miss a single dua. He can provide us with literally every single thing that we desire. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers du'as in 3 different ways. He either will answer it right away in this life, he will answer it at a later time, or he will answer it in the hereafter. So regardless, your dua is going to be answered. But I highly recommend actually writing down every single thing that you want. What is something that you've always wanted? And don't think small, think big. Nothing is impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes we make ourselves believe that, well, maybe I'm, being a little delusional. No, be delusional with your du'as. There's no problem with being delusional with your du'as. I have been so delusional with my du'as and they have been answered. So don't feel afraid to ask Allah for anything. Nothing is impossible for God, and billahi ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer it, but don't fumble on planning that out right now because the month of Ramadan is chaotic. There can be so much happening. It might be a very busy month for you. You don't want to miss out on a single dua and think, I should have made this dua during Ramadan. We need to really try our very best to approach Ramadan with a lot of hope and positivity because at the end of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of planners. And so long as we're trying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees it. Really try your best not to compare where you're at with where somebody else is at. Some people are really good at completing the Quran 2 or 3 times. They can finish the whole Quran multiple times and you might be struggling with finishing the entire Quran. That's fine. You're still trying, right? For other people who are able to complete it multiple times, it might also be because that is a routine that they built up before the month of Ramadan that is a part of their daily life that it's a lot easier for them to do during Ramadan, right? Really understand that there are different circumstances that make things more easier for other people. Whereas for you, for example, it might be very easy for you to do sunnah prayers because it's something that you've prepped for or have done throughout the year anyway. So it's easy for you to pick up on during Ramadan. Don't compare where you're at to where other people are at because this is really a month for us to deepen our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, deepen our connection with the Quran, and really try to enhance our spirituality and come out of the month feeling a lot better and being better Muslims, right? So I really, really want you guys to be very hopeful during the month of Ramadan, hopeful that you'll be able to change, hopeful that you'll come out feeling better about yourself, feeling better about your spirituality, with your heart feeling lighter. Make sure that you're approaching Ramadan with a lens of hope. Go at your own pace. Everybody's Ramadan is going to look different. When you do see other people who are doing more than you, use that as a source of motivation. You know, wow, this person is reading a lot. I want to try to increase in this act. Use it as a way to compete for good. For that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never burden a soul beyond what it can bear. If you are going into this month with hardship, feeling sad, feeling heavy, and you want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to really relieve you from this pain, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for whatever it is that your heart desires. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to lift you from your sadness, from your pain, from whatever hardships or anxieties that you're struggling with. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ease that for you, because Ramadan is truly a month where so many of us feel a sense of relief. We feel closeness. We feel like our hearts are craving it. And I feel like it's incredible how Ramadan always, at least for me, falls at a time when I know my heart needs it the most, when I feel like I really needed this month. And I'm sure it's the same for many of you guys. I just wanted to apologize for all the technical difficulties and changes in sound. Hopefully it's not too obvious when it did happen, but I'm very sorry. I literally had to refilm this constantly, so I just wanted to apologize for that again. But I really hope, inshallah, that you guys enjoyed this video, that you guys found it beneficial, and you're able to take something with you, bi'Illahi ta'ala, and you guys will have the absolute best Ramadan, inshallah. May Allah Azza wa Jal make this Ramadan be best Ramadan for you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open your heart and allow you to go into the month of Ramadan feeling well and feeling good and feeling healthy, and may He allow you to leave the month of Ramadan feeling like your best self and allow you to have a deep relationship with Him, inshallah. I cannot wait for Ramadan, you guys. So of course, you guys, this Ramadan there's going to be so many fun videos, inshallah. Make sure that you guys are liking and commenting and subscribing. It's going to be such a fun and beautiful, spiritually driven month. I'm so excited, inshallah. So yeah, keep me in your du'as, you guys, and I will keep you in my du'as. And I'm going to end the video here. I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.